You all set? All set? Anyone who isn't standing, please stand for the prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray for that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction, which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Council Leahy.
Here.
Council Leary.
Here.
Council Mercia.
Here.
Council Milonazo.
Here.
Council Rourke.
Here.
Council Samaras.
Here.
Council Belanger.
Here.
Council Elliott.
Here.
That's 9 present.
Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for Mr. William Bill Theokis, loving husband for 68 years to Dimitrula Julie Theokis, whom he lost on October of 2015. He was a lifelong resident of Lowell, educated through the Lowell schools. Bill was a decorated veteran who served his country in the Army during World War II in the 76th Infantry Division and was honorably discharged. Upon his return to Lowell, Bill began his 40-year career as a Lowell police officer. After several years, he was assigned to the Traffic Division and became known as the Whistling Traffic Cop. He was a member of the former board member of the Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Church in Lowell, Greek American Legion, the AHEPA, the HEPA, the Hellenic Cultural Society, the Hellenic American Academy, and Alumni Association, and he was also a 50-year member of the Masonic Lodge. He is survived by his 2 sons, George and James, 2 daughters, Maria and Pamela, 8 grandchildren, 11 great-grandchildren. We offer our sympathy to his family, relatives, and many friends. He will be truly missed. And I would also like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for the 59 victims of the deadly shooting at the Mandalay Bay Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada, one victim of which was 42-year-old Rhonda LaRock of Tewksbury, as well as the 515 people who were injured in one of the deadliest shootings in modern American history. We offer up our prayers for the injured and our moment of silence to the memory and honor of the 59 who perished. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for George Butch Rudy. Butch Rudy, 71, is a lifelong resident of Lowell. Passed away Tuesday, September 26th, at Lowell General Hospital after a brief illness. A son of the late George L. Rudy and the late Dorothy Briere Rudy. He was born August 11th, 1946 in Lowell and was educated in the Lowell schools. He made his lifelong home in Lowell. Mr. Rudy was a former Golden Gloves boxer and was the eldest of 7 boxing Rudy brothers. And as part of his boxing career in 1963, he represented the New England Golden Gloves in Kansas City, Missouri, in the 126 weight-pound class. In his younger days, he worked on a hot-top paving industry and later worked in the roofing industry as the owner and proprietor of Watertown Roofing until his retirement. In addition, he was a member of the Club Past Temps and the CCA Club and also the Lowell Firefighters Club. He is survived by his fiancée, Eleanor Zani of Lowell, his children, Christine Rudy, and her significant other, Chris Dixon of Nashville, New Hampshire, Lisa Rudy of Lowell, Doran Rudy and his wife, Roseanne of Derry, New Hampshire, Derek Rudy and his significant other, Tony DeRoches, Ashley Betancourt and her husband, Jack of Draycott, and his stepdaughter, Brenna Hernandez, and her husband, Peter of Lowell. Sister, Susan Silva, and his brothers, Dennis Rudy, his wife, Gloria of Draycott, Brian Rudy and his wife Ann Drakeit, and Keith Rudy Sr., his fiancee Cheryl Haley Beaudry. He had 15 grandchildren, several nieces, nephews, and cousin. He was also the brother of the late Ronald C. Rudy, the late Gerald Rudy, and the late Gary W. Rudy. His family would like to thank the doctors and nurses from Lowell General Hospital Cancer Center, as well as the nurses and aides from Town and Country Nursing Home for the care that he received. Thank you.
Thank you. Under the city clerk, we have the minutes of the city council meeting of September 26th for acceptance. Chair would entertain a motion to accept and place on file by Council Milonazo. Second by Council Samaras. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Being just before 7 o'clock, we'll move on to the communications from the city manager. Beginning with item A, which is the Achinsky Memorial Pool sign at the South Common. Any discussion on item A? Council
Yes.
Mercia.
Thank you very much. There's a few items on this agenda under the city manager's portion, and this is one of them. I want to thank the mayor and the manager, Tom Belguide, for everything being done. This is something, we saw something and we corrected it. That was a slight and we made it right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further discussion on item A? If not, we'll move on to item B, which is the Broadway Bridge update. Any discussion on item B? If not, we'll move on to item C, which is the intersection of Foster and Westford Street. Any discussion regarding item C? Hearing none, we'll move on to item D, which is 181 Market Street, 15-minute parking. Any discussion? If not, we'll move on to, I'm sorry, Council Leahy.
Thank you. I'm having a hard time pulling this up. Could you just, we gonna put the sign there? 15-minute parking?
Yes, it'll be made a 60-day order.
Okay. Did anybody, were we able to reach any of the business owners there? I mean, a couple of them approached me, that's why I put it on, but I didn't know if any approached.
Yes, Councillor, I did go into the business and knocked on some doors, but there was nobody there. So we just went ahead and put it on the 60-day trials.
All right. I think that, I've used that before for the bike shop and Deb Daly, so I think that'll come in handy there, because there really isn't any place to just pull in, drop your bikes off, pick them up, and so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion regarding item D? If not, we'll move on to item E, which is Ruth Street. Any discussion? Council Leary.
Just first, thank you for the quick review. I mean, I went by it again today, and there's still water there. So I guess as far as a time frame to really fix that, what are we looking at in terms of the actual getting it done?
Mr. Manager.
We'll look for next spring.
Okay. All right, great. No, so long as it gets, I mean, it's been a problem for quite some time, but that's,
I agree with you 100%.
okay, thank you.
Any further discussion regarding item E? If not, we'll move on to item F, which is the Holmes Quinn Bridge signage. Council Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager and everybody involved, there's another thank you very much for that sign.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, we'll move on to item G, which is the North Common Streetlight.
Oh,
Council Mercy.
there again, thank you very much.
It doesn't say in the report, but I want you to know it was put on poll 20.
Oh, thank you so much.
Any further discussion on the North Common Streetlight? If not, we'll move on to the Spark Street paving. Any discussion? Council Leahy. Okay. If not, we'll move on to item I, which is the HCID RFP, the Hamilton Canal Innovation District RFP. Any discussion? Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, thank you for the report. It's unfortunate that the open house we had back in June at the Hamilton Canal Innovation District did not net any I mean, although it was well-attended, we didn't so-called land, if you will, a master developer. So no one ended up bidding on the last RFP? Is that correct, Mr. Manager?
Yes, that's correct, but I just want to make one correction, an important one, though. As a result of the mayor's open house relative to that Hamilton Canal, we did spark interest in a developer who's already met with me relative to parcels 15 and 17 on that side of the canal. So it was a success in my mind. We may not have gotten a master developer, but we got a party that's interested in doing a project over there.
Yes, I don't deny that,
Yeah.
but I'm talking specifically
No, I
about
know,
the
no,
master- Right.
we didn't get, and we will continue to look for a master developer.
Right. But from my experiences, Mr. Manager, we've made more gains without a master developer than we have had with a master developer. And that's thanks to your administration and planning and development being proactive and aggressive on the issue. I mean, we have, since we have not had a master developer, we have landed Watermark. We're in negotiations with SNR. We're in negotiations with Lowell Company. We have just a few weeks ago landed Wind Development, parcels 8 and 9. So I think everything is going pretty well. We're standing, having no master developer. Why do you feel we need one?
Because there are still parcels on the north side of the canal, the Dutton Street side, as I call it, that need to be developed. And we got really good news yesterday. EDA approved our plans for the infrastructure on that side of the canal. They will be going out to bid on October 11th, and we should have a bid opening on November 1st. So that infrastructure that we've been waiting for is going to become a reality real soon, and that will spur development on that side. So I think we need a master developer to really get a signature company to come over there and do some good development on that side. I mean, our Division of Planning and Development, especially through Kevin Coughlin and Diane Trad, have done a wonderful job, and we've all been working hard. But, you know, we need somebody who's in that field that's going to be able to bring in a big client for us.
Okay, and I'm merely displaying my confidence, you, Mr. Manager, and Planning and Development, how well things have gone. But you've also stated in the report that more or less that it would be difficult to push any more remaining parcels because they're going to be utilized as staging areas or temporary parking for the construction that we have got activity going. So how do you go about that now? I mean, obviously, you can never stop improving or working, but there's going to be a little pause in the construction period.
Well, what we're doing is we're using some of those parcels for temporary surface parking for these developments. But we'll target that surface parking, so if we get somebody who wants to develop, say, parcel 15 or 17, we'll be able to move the surface parking somewhere else to allow that construction to begin. So you make a great point, and we do have alternate plans we can use to provide the parking while construction is
Okay,
going on.
believe me, I'm not opposed to continue the momentum and the progress. That's what I wanted to show. Okay. Lastly, how are we doing on this never-ending saga, this land swap deal?
It's going very well. You know, there are procedures that have to be followed in the federal government, and those procedures are being followed. But as I've said before, and I'll say it again tonight, it's not going to hold up construction of the garage. It will make for a much more aesthetically pleasing entrance to the garage when the land swap is done, but it's not going to hold up the actual construction of the garage.
Okay, yes, I understand the garage is in the design phase, yes, and it's not, I'm fully aware of that, and that's great. How about the appraisal process, Mr. Manager, that's going to determine how many spots are going to be given for that building national park? So where are we with that appraised value?
That's a good question. I know that's in the federal government. We're actually have a meeting tomorrow on the land swap, and why don't I just email the council afterwards, where the appraisal is. I'll let you know tomorrow
Great,
the status
that's
of the appraisal.
very, very important, Mr. Manager. Then we'll have to know how many spots we have to dedicate in this new garage to offset the, and that number is gonna have to satisfy the national parks too. So this is a considerable hurdle. This is not done by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I know many people have worked very, very hard for consecutive months here, I understand that. But there are some hurdles here that appraised values have to match the number of spots the national parks needs to suit their needs for that building. So please, Mr. Manager, keep us astute to that appraisal. That is key moving forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Samaras?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Councilor Belanger addressed many of the points. I don't want to be redundant in asking those questions. But, Mr. Manager, I think you made a good presentation here, and this is something that we can go back to our constituents and say, there's good things happening at the Hamilton Canal area. But in regard to the master developer, at this point, do you feel at some point that we can get a master developer, or should we think like we did today? We met with a group of local business people to talk about the Amazon project and the possibility of doing something with that. Would you look at the possibility of maybe bringing in some of our local developers and business leaders, as you have done, and maybe that's a direction we might go in? Or use that as a means of saying to a master developer, this is a commission law, this is what the city council wants, this is what we want, and this is the type of support that you can get. Because we're at a point where we're doing very well, but at some point, I think what you're talking about is if we get a real master developer at the end, we can have the touchdown. Right now, we're doing well, okay? Very well, as a matter of fact. But the point is, where do we go from here? Any suggestions to that?
No, I think that's a great idea, and we'll continue to do that. Maybe we were victims of our own success, is that the developer saw that we've already tied up most of the parcels on this side, and the other side won't be ready for probably 2 years, so maybe they said we'll wait to see if we have an opportunity over there. So I'm confident we'll be able to get somebody after the infrastructure is in.
I think that's a good point. I think our constituents have to know that, in other words, sometimes somebody will say, well, how come they're not getting a developer? But it's look at what's happening. And if we're getting the results, but we want to go to the next level, what do we have to do? Do we go with the developer, or do we go with something internally? So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Leary.
Just a quick question. So I call it the third of the lots where there's no infrastructure, no water, no sewer, no real roads. How many parcels are on that as it's designed right now, do you know, that are on that side? Give or take. I mean, without having the map.
Joe, 6 to 8, would you say? Oh, wait, I can count them right now.
Yeah.
There's about 4 parcels available for development. One's going to be a city parking garage, and then there'll be 2, really small parcels that are going to be essentially park space.
Okay. So it's interesting. I'm going through this report, and it is interesting. Watermark has already signed intent, so that's really near where the pond is, if you will. So as you're coming down Dutton Street, you'll be looking at that building. The other one, S&R Corporation, Parcel 5, that's when I get a little confused. That would be located...
Do you know where the judicial center is being constructed right now?
Correct, yeah.
Diagonal from the judicial center and right across from 110 Canal Place.
So it's being, so down that tunnel where we'll be having then the 2 apartments built by Wind Development. So that whole street will be completed.
Yes.
The other one I think is the most interesting, and it kind of reminds me of a little bit of what Worcester or Springfield are doing in terms of what they did with their Bay State building years ago. It's kind of like a mini skyscraper. It's the Lipoli company is looking at a 20-story. I guess essentially that's a signature building, and that would be up front, right as you're coming down through the Lord Overpass area. How serious are we about this, and is this something that is something within the grasp of reality, or is it something that's a pipe dream at this point?
I don't think it's a pipe dream because David Heller, who owns the Spinners, at the last Lowell Plan meeting, informed everybody that he is now in partnership with Sal Lipoli to do a development on those 2 parcels. So with those 2 great developers, I don't think it's a pipe dream. I think it's a reality.
No, and I think that's the signature land. I think that was the area you were talking about, Genesis. And one of the issues regarding Genesis was the initial plans with Genesis were to do, basically a signature building, and then it downsized into essentially, a building. It would have been on the tax rolls, but it wouldn't have been something that's drawing you into really our city. If you look at mid-sized cities like Worcester, you have mini high-rises, if you will, downtown, that are signature buildings downtown. Springfield, which I have more knowledge of, if you're looking at the old Monarch Place, where Monarch Insurance Company, unfortunately, they went insolvent, but that building, when it was built, was a major impact to the downtown of Springfield, which has always faced similar challenges like Lowell. The other building they built back before the malls were invented was the Bay State Building. That was about a 30-story mini skyscraper in Springfield, which reinvented the downtown area. Before you had, the Burlington malls and what have you, and unfortunately because of the malls, that had an impact on it. The signature building has significance. When we speak about the Seaport District in Boston, if you remember, there was two big issues. There was the Moakley Courthouse, and then there was the infrastructure. Now, the infrastructure was the Big Dig, which was massive. Nothing's been seen like it, probably nothing will be seen again in our lifetime. We're gonna have a miniature version of that coming in from the connector, as you come up Thorndike Street right into Dutton Street. That is kind of like you call it the fill, but it's gonna be the essential. If that's done right, and that's something we need to talk about in the next few meetings, having that done right. If that's done right, you're looking at an area that's gonna have massive economic development for the city beyond our lifetime. So it is very exciting, but I just think that we need to make sure that we're having that infrastructure. I know the grants are in place now for the Signature Bridge and infrastructure on the parcels near Dutton Street, but we also need to make sure we're having the connection from the connector into town done correctly. A lot of folks do have some concerns because there are going to be, as it's looked at now, a lot of lights, and how does that actually improve pedestrian traffic and just traffic getting in and out of the city? So I'd be encouraged that this report is exciting. If that's not done right, then really none of this is going to work, or it's going to work well. But I am excited because, if you're looking at Lapoli companies or something similar to it, building a signature building of anywhere near that size, that will have a major economic significance in a positive way, not only for jobs, for residents moving into it who will have income to spend, but also for the tax base, which is what we're all trying to achieve as city councilors and city administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Leahy.
Thank you. To the manager again. How big is when I see these buildings, it's exciting to see the progress going, but then when I saw the 20-story Lapoli building, how many cars are gonna fit in that new garage? Do we have?
You mean the Hamilton, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, 975 is the projected to be reduced by how many spaces that we have to give to the National Park Service.
And what are we guessing for that?
I'm guessing between 1 to 200.
Okay. Are we gonna, I'm just concerned about the parking in that area.
Well,
Is there
if
any?
you see the map, take a look at parcel 1.
Yeah,
That's a parcel that I'm favoring for another garage right there.
okay.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to piece together some land with DCAM across the street next to this with the Judicial Center, so we can make it more cars, because we do need as many cars as we can get in the
Yeah.
Hamilton Canal.
What
So we're
have-
looking at parcel 1 as a proposed spot for a new parking garage.
Have we been talking with people like on the Middlesex Street strip? There's that open land where Durkin's, you come up the hill and Durkin's, there's a big open lot there. Is there any negotiations or any interest with that person for building a garage or? And then the other question was on Middlesex Street, right across the street from that is the old fish
Right.
shop. Like, what's going on with that? Is that gonna be torn down or does that?
I'll get an update for you on that.
Okay.
But we've,
Because, there's potential in that area for somebody to even,
I'll get an update on what the status is of those parcels.
okay,
Yep,
all right, thank you.
yep.
Thank you, Council Milonazo.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor. As my colleagues indicated, there is a lot of good news in this report, so I think we're just going to build on that. My question is, was former Secretary Bilecki invited to that open house? Was he invited to that open house? Do you recall?
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was. I don't know if did he attend? No, he didn't attend. He was
Okay.
invited, but he didn't
Okay,
attend.
because when he was secretary, he was up in, as you know, up in
Oh,
Lowell
yeah.
quite a bit, and always thought very highly of the city. And
Right.
I know he's formed a development company now, so it might be, if the manager and his team can reach out to former Secretary Bilecki, he might have an interest in at least talking to us about being a master developer. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lastly, Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager again. Mr. Manager, are we sort of incentivizing any of these negotiations with these developers, S&R, Lapoli, Watermark, to include some parking underneath? Not necessarily underground, but it won't completely satisfy the needs of the building, but it will help alleviate the stress on the Hamilton Canal Garage. So is that in the mix, if you will?
Yes, always that's part of the mix, to try and get some parking at the location. That's difficult sometimes, the cost especially, but no, we always like to have them look at getting parking on their own site.
Okay, great. Please keep that in the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, we'll move on to the Amazon headquarters request for proposal. Any discussion? Mr. Manager?
Yes, this is, I think, very exciting proposal. This was a motion by Mayor Kennedy, and what we've done since he brought this motion is that we've actually entered into a regional approach, because Amazon is looking for such a mammoth amount of land as it's just not available in Lowell. We don't have a parcel or parcels big enough to accommodate the proposal. But if we work in cooperation, right now we're working with Billerica and Tewksbury relative to a parcel of land it's the old Raytheon out on Woburn Street, is to see if we can partner together to promote it and make it a viable site. Because just imagine if Amazon located at that site on Woburn Street, the spill-off to the Hamilton Canal and the Tanner Street area would be terrific. So we're working closely with Tewksbury and Billerica, and because we have so much to offer. We had a meeting today. The mayor hosted a meeting today relative for partners in the city that you talked about, Councilor Samaras, to get ideas on how we can promote this process. Because think of what Amazon is looking for is they're not just looking for a building. They're looking for a spot that their employees are going to enjoy living and playing in. And they're looking for a place where there's a talented workforce. We have that all here in Lowell. We have UMass Lowell and Middlesex Community College. That's going to give them the talented workforce. We have the cultural diversity, which they want. And we have affordable housing, which they don't have. I was in Seattle last summer, and they don't have any housing for the Amazon employees. That's the biggest concern they have in Seattle right now. It's just finding an apartment to live in. So we have everything here in Lowell. And like I say, we had a great meeting today that was hosted by the mayor, and we have it's a short opportunity. It's October 19th is the filing date, so we're working very hard, and I think we're going to put together a good proposal to try and attract Amazon to this part of Massachusetts.
Thank you. Any further discussion on item J? If not, we'll move on to item K, the marijuana response. Any discussion? Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to make a motion to refer this to the zoning subcommittee, and I think it's about time we get going on this recreational marijuana use, because it's set to be in place by July 1 of 2018. I think we are lagging a little behind, so it's important we address this situation sooner rather than later, so we can sort of have control where these things are placed, away from schools, out of residential neighborhoods and whatnot, so we can selectively zone these things. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we have a motion by Council Belanger to refer item K, the marijuana response, to the zoning subcommittee. Seconded by Council Elliott. Discussion? Council Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think it's a good idea, certainly because I filed the motion to follow suit with some other communities. Some other communities are banning them as well. Is that allowed under the provisions of the ballot, Mr. Manager? That some communities are putting it on the ballot, they're going to town meeting, and they're placing a ban on
My memory is based upon the vote. You answer that, whether, we could put it, but we'd have to do a referendum.
Yes,
correct?
there'd have to, because Lowell was one of the municipalities that voted in favor of this, there'd
And
have to
can you-
be a,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but just for my own recollection as well as the people at home, what was the margin on?
I think it was something
Passing
like 65-35, I believe. I believe in
Can we
Lowell.
find that out? I think that's important to know.
That's certainly, but
Yep.
it would have to be on a statewide ballot. So the first ballot it could be on would be November of 2018.
No, my question is, other communities are going to town meeting or they're going to their local, oh, you mean ballot in the city? I got you, right, okay. I understand, but I think it's appropriate to move forward with providing the appropriate zones which was the reason why I filed the motion, to make sure that that they're not going to end up these retail shops. I mean, if you look at some other states, they take on a life of their own. I mean, Mr. Manager, you mentioned Seattle. I believe in Seattle there's about, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's 160 retail shops. Of course, Seattle's a much larger metropolitan area. But moving forward, what is the timeline that people could apply? And I mean, I don't want to be behind setting up zones so they end up in places that we don't want. I'm sure we have some retail restrictions now, but what is the time frame that they can apply in these?
Well, they can apply right now,
They can apply right now.
but we don't have to, we have to give the approval to them.
Okay.
But we have time to, what we're essentially doing is, we can't ban them outright, but we're setting up zoning areas where they can locate that aren't going to be as pernicious as you might see in Seattle with the downtown, popping up next to the CVS on Merrimack Street. So when do you have a timeline when?
Yes, so part of the reason, I know that the council had filed a couple of motions on this, part of the reason that we delayed in presenting this because we knew the legislature were going to make changes to it. It didn't make sense for us to pass some comprehensive zoning. If the legislature was going to change things, it would make us have to go back and completely redo it. Now that the legislature has acted, we've put together with the help of the manager the zoning ordinance. The deadlines are as follows. The CCC, the Cannabis Control Commission, is going to start accepting applications in April of 2018. They anticipate that the first time when you would be allowed to open up would be in July of 2018. There was a conference actually today in Worcester to discuss a lot of these issues. And they actually talked a little bit about outright bans and moratoriums, so that there are things we can do to delay that, but the state is not accepting any moratoriums past December of 2018. We are actually, if we take the steps that we've proposed, going to be one of the first municipalities in the state to take comprehensive zoning action, and that isn't a ban. So it would put us on the forefront of kind of regulating these. I do think that we'll likely have to make some tweaks to the proposed ordinance, just based on some of the information that the state provided today. But I think it provides us, as the manager mentioned, a way to allow it with restrictions that make it kind of a preventable to the things that have happened in other states.
Okay, well, I mean, I'll support sending it to the zoning subcommittee to make sure we get it right. And that it is good to note that we're ahead of the curve, we're not behind the curve, because applications will not be accepted until April. One other question, cultivation facilities, this is for retail sale of marijuana. What about medical marijuana and cultivation facilities? Is that governed by this cannabis commission, or is that already governed by another state statute?
The medical marijuana scheme remains under the auspices of the Department of Public Health, as it has been since it was originally introduced in the Commonwealth. Our zoning, however, addresses everything, soup to nuts. We address the medical marijuana, which we had not specifically addressed before. We address recreational, we address cultivation. We actually also address scientific laboratories, which is another thing that's allowed under the current legislation. So we really did try to take kind of a holistic approach. I know the manager's not familiar with that word, but a holistic approach to the marijuana issue with this zoning so that we can kind of capture the whole picture.
So are there cultivation facilities in Lowell? Is there,
We have two. We have one on Tanner Street and one on Bolt Street.
specifically for medical marijuana? Because at this point, it cannot be sold.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. I appreciate moving forward. I look forward to that subcommittee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council Milonazo.
Just so my colleagues know, the next zoning subcommittee is scheduled for October 17th, so we do have other items on the agenda, but we'll certainly have this on and continue to discuss it. But I also wanted to say that the city of Lawrence, I believe, is either the only city in the Commonwealth or one of two cities in the Commonwealth that voted the recreational marijuana down. So it's my understanding that they're actually going to move forward, as Councilor Elliott, when he asked the question of Mr. Slagle, what was the percentage? Their percentage was just the opposite, that 65% voted it down and 35% voted in favor. So I understand, and I could be, I could stand corrected, but I understand the Commonwealth is actually allowing them to not have to participate. So it's something, I don't know if the Solicitor's Office wants to look at what's going on in the city of Lawrence, but just picking up on Councilor Elliott's point. But I think they were either one of two across the Commonwealth that did not vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? If not, we'll move on to the status of 156 Wilder Street. Council Leary.
First, thank you for the report, but just, can we get information regarding the state's investigation? I know that when we looked at it, there was a potential illegal third unit that the city took care of, but there was also, I guess, a state investigation regarding lead paint and some other issues, and it's not in this report. I don't know if we know about that, or is that still outstanding?
We'll look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Council Leary, before we do that, I neglected to take a vote on the marijuana response, sending it to zoning. So if we can do that, no further discussion. All in favor of that motion to do that, all opposed, so voted. Council Leahy.
Thank you. Through you to the manager, this is one of those issues where you and the council and neighborhood services, we've done so much work with the needs program and really trying to address these issues. And this is one of those thorns in our side. I mean, it says in the report that, they came in for some minor repairs, pulled permits, and then we find out it's a full renovation. Then they're not telling us the truth about how many apartments. And it also was very disturbing to the neighborhood, especially to the neighbor next door. And now, we go ahead, we shut them down, and we tell them just to follow the proper procedures, and now they haven't done anything for over a year. So, it's very aggravating and frustrating to us all. And this happens across the city, and it's not one of the most major issues that the city deals with, but it's a very important issue to the neighborhood and to the neighbors. If we had someone living next to us doing this, we'd be going crazy. So whatever we can do to help you and the Department Services Office, we need to know, how do we tighten up? How do we stiffen the rules? How do we make sure that the work starts? We want these projects to finish. We just want you to be good neighbors. When you come in and you rehab a building, work 7 to 5 or 7 to 7. Don't come in on Sunday morning, start at 7, start later in the day. Same thing on Saturdays. But we don't want to shut down a project and then not see it get done. I mean, now it's an eyesore again. So we need to make sure that we can focus on this and other projects throughout the city where people come in and it's a 2-family, and the next thing you know, it's a 3-family, a 4-family. The traffic, the cars in the street, this is an issue that's very important, and people are telling us. I mean, it does happen to be a campaign year, so we hear all this, and we're all getting bombarded with it, and this is very, very important to us. So if we can do something on this and houses like this within the next couple of weeks or whatever, just get the ball rolling to get this Wilder Street project up and going. And then other projects that come before us where people are going 2 families to 3-family and cluttering the neighborhood and ruining the quality of life. This is the stuff we need to focus. So whatever we can do to get back on track with this, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council, Mr. Manager.
Yeah, I drove by it yesterday. It's deplorable. And one thing we've been doing lately is getting more involved in the court system. You had complaints about 44 McKinley. We went to court and we resolved that situation. The buses on 4th Avenue, they just were thumbing their nose at us, and we ended up going to court, and those buses are gone now because of the court intervention. So I'm starting to have our law department and development services get more aggressive with involving the courts to mandate that they comply with the zoning, and we'll be looking at that on this particular parcel and others in the future.
Councilor Elliott.
Just briefly, I agree with Councilor Leahy, and I appreciate, Mr. Manager, sending out the message to these difficult landlords that we're not going to tolerate it, and if we have to go to court, don't dare us, because we're going to go. And I firmly believe on that, on the 4th Ave in Pawtuckaville, if, they were thumbing their nose at the city, we issued, letters, appropriate notices, and you know what, they kept bringing more buses. They brought in a porta potty, and until we took legal action, they were pushing the envelope. So similar on Wilder Street. It's unfortunate, but we have to proceed in such a manner. My question is there, it costs the city time and money. Is this something that we can assess at some level? You're smiling, is your lawyer hat coming on? But I think that's the other end. Fine, you want to push us? We don't want to do that. We're going to enforce the ordinances, and by the way, it's going to cost you after instead of taking appropriate action.
Mr. Manager.
Yeah, Attorney James Wellick from the Law Department handled the case, and he did a very good job. And actually, I told him to bring a motion for costs, because that would be an incentive if they had to pay our costs for going to court, an incentive not to do this in the future. Okay. So we are going after cost in the case.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion regarding this matter? If not, we'll move on to item M, the downtown lighting update. Any discussion? Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Mr. Manager, thank you for this report. It's a great report. As you know, I think Councilor Belanger and I have walked through the city, downtown with you, and we've also walked with many business leaders who are concerned about lighting in the downtown. And to know that the LED lights will be ordered and you'll start the installation in January is great. What I'm really pleased about is the neighborhood distribution of lights. It looks like every neighborhood, the large neighborhoods and the very smaller neighborhoods, are going to receive, this is going to make a difference in their neighborhoods. Mr. Manager, can you make sure that this information gets out to the neighborhood groups? I think they'll be pleased to see this. This is a very strong indication that we want to help make our neighborhoods a lot safer, and this will do it. One question. The only problem we seem to have in the downtown is, as was stated in this report, that there is sometimes great distance between lights in certain areas, especially like Market Street. Do you think that by adding these LED lights, do the engineers feel that this will accommodate those areas?
Catherine Moses is the person who did this. She did a great job. This is going to save the city a lot of money. The question is, when there's a lot of distances between the light poles, are these new LED bulbs going to help out with the lighting that wasn't there before?
Yes, that's a great question, and thank you for asking that, Councilor Samaras, because that was something that our lighting engineers had identified as being problematic, which is why we aren't really getting the performance we want to see. So what we had done in a previous project on Merrimack, East Merrimack and Bridge Street, we had increased the lighting levels because there is such a great distance in between the poles, and the performance level that you're seeing on those should be an equivalent performance level if you look at the lighting lumens and different things like that. So you should see better lighting, fewer dark spaces in between, and then our contractor can also kind of manipulate the lighting so it goes more towards where you want it.
Thank you. No, this is a great report, and I think this is going to be very well received by our citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion regarding this? If not, we'll move on to the last item under the manager's communications, which is the Wellman Street project update. Councilor Samaras, then Councilor Belanger. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Mr. Manager, regarding this project, okay, this was I think it'll be a very good project for this area, but it's apparent that the owners of that project are pulling out. Now, are they pulling out, or are we dependent upon them selling the project, or is there a possibility that they'll come back to it, or will they get someone else to do this project?
Yes, my understanding is that the developer is selling selling the development rights. Eric, how much longer do they have? Is it a year to
Yes,
proceed under
they
the?
had 2 years from the original grant, which was last summer, so they have a year within which.
So they have a
pull the
year to
permits.
market it and then have somebody else do the development.
I mean, do you see that as a possibility?
Oh,
or-
absolutely. It's a lucrative proposition.
I thought so. I mean, it shows all
Yep.
aspects of that, but, it's, where do we go from here?
No, I mean, I fully expect that somebody, they will sell it. They wouldn't have gone through everything they went through to get these permits. I mean, they weren't just handed the permits overnight. They had to do a lot of work, a lot of appearances, and we made them comply with a lot of sidewalk and other traffic instances. So I don't see them walking away from it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Board.
Thank you. Council Belanger and then Council Mercia.
I'm all set, Mr. Mayor. Council Samaras addressed my concerns. Thank you.
Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The selling point that I supported this when the beginning came and Judge Eliades was here, I thought he was representing this developer and things. We did ask if there was some sort of a stipulation that they wouldn't own this for so many years and then turn it over to the university so that it would be off the tax roll. This is still in place, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it runs to its successors and assigns, so anybody that buys the property has to comply with the paying taxes on the property. It's not that they can't sell it to the university, it's the university would have to continue to pay taxes on it if they were to buy it. So
Right.
that's a
Well,
disincentive for them to buy it.
That's what I'm concerned
Yeah,
about.
but no, that runs with the land, and they would
Okay.
have to comply with it.
All right, I hope that this wouldn't have played a role in that, and
No.
that's why they did that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? If not, that concludes the communications from the city manager. The chair would entertain a motion to accept the communications and place them on file by Council Milonazo, second by Council Mercia. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? All opposed? Being a little after 7 o'clock, we'll go to the public hearings. We have 2 public hearings scheduled for this evening. The first one is requesting installation, is by National Grid, to request the installation of a new heavy-duty hand pole located at 239 East Merrimack Street to allow for a service upgrade. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor?
Good evening. David Boucher, Senior Designer at National Grid, 1101 Turnpike Street in North Andover. On East Merrimack Street, number 239. Currently, we have a service going there, and the customer wants to upgrade their service, asking for a larger electric service, and in order to do so, what we're asking for is a new heavy-duty handhold location, at which point the customer will meet us and would enable us to meet their needs. If you need any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, close the hearing on behalf of the proponents. Open it up for those who wish to speak in opposition. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? In opposition? Opposition. Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and open up to the City Council. The Chair would entertain a motion to refer this matter to the wire inspector for report and recommendation by Council Leahy, seconded by Council Mercia. Discussion on the motion. Council Leahy.
Through you, where's this manhole on, where is this on,
It's on the sidewalk.
but where is it on, where's, the location? I don't recognize Ash Street and,
It's right across, I think in the drawing, it's on there, don't recall the street name there, that's across. Do you know?
Yes, it's as you're going up the hill, it's right past High Street, right past the automotive parking lot. It's right there.
Where you go into the hospital, John? Like
that's
across the
James
street.
Cirque Court or whatever? Okay. All right. And this is, who does this benefit?
The customer at 239 East Merrimack Street is increasing their service, the amps for their main switch. So they'd like to, in order for us to do that, We need to place the new handhole, and the place is in the
For a
sidewalk.
house, you mean?
For that house, yeah.
The auto, just for a house, you need to do that?
Yeah, the line that's going there currently is, I don't know how old it is, it could be 80 years old or so. It could even be a wooden duct or something, in the old days.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just getting frustrated, because we had National Grid in here, 2 months ago? And I don't think they removed one pole. And over on East Merrimack Street, in Stackpole, you got 2 poles that have been there for years. I mean, Stackpole, there's 2 poles on the corner of Stackpole and East Merrimack Street. And I mean, sooner or later, they're awful looking. They're probably dangerous. And I don't know how long how much longer do we have to take all this in the city? And, you guys come before us and we do all this small stuff, but there's no cooperation. So I don't know. I don't know what we should be doing. I mean, if this is something that's, like the next one for the church, but I know we don't want to deny that, but I mean, this is getting ridiculous. They just come in, they don't really care, and some of these poles are so bad looking, they're dangerous looking. So I'm not voting for it, but it just, enough seems to be enough, so I don't know what we want to do or where we want to go with this stuff. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion is to refer to the wire inspector for report and recommendation. Is there any further discussion? Councilman Milonazo.
Thank you. I thought about a month ago, we had representatives from, be it Verizon and on National Grid, that they did give us an update, and they were removing double poles. Again, obviously, Council Leahy still has some concerns, which is his right, but I thought they had indicated to us that they were making progress. So I just wanted to kind of get that on the record. I'm supporting it going to the wire inspector. Thank you.
Council Leary.
Just to build off that, can we get an updated report? I think we're due right around now to get that report, actually, in terms of where they're at. And we could look at, I mean, if we could almost like bring in a motion towards specific poles at Stackpole Street, I think that might be a good idea for the next council meeting. But you know what? We did get this promise because they have a new maintenance agreement with Verizon that doing basically the bulk of the work. And we just had this actually regarding an issue that we spoke about regarding basically a piece of metal just sticking in the ground, and we joked about horses being attached to it and stuff. So we need the report. We need to get it on a monthly basis and just hold them accountable to it. And if they're making progress, then the report itself will show that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? So, Council Leahy, did you want to make an amendment to the motion? This is just referred to the wire inspector, but you can make an amendment to the motion if you wanted to ask the city manager to provide the city council with a monthly or a report every 2 months.
We'll start to get that, but it's just, it creates more work for us. They have no respect for the city. And some of these poles look dangerous, and they're there for years. They give us the same line time after time, that it's 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. And then these poles are wired together. They look awful.
Okay, roll call on the motion.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
No.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercy.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
No.
7 yeas.
The next public hearing is from National Grid to request the installation of a new pole and relocate overhanging wires located at Adams Street. Chair will open up the hearing for the proponents. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor?
Once again, Dave Boucher, National Grid, from North Andover. On Adams Street, currently we have some wires that pass by the windows in the back of St. Patrick's Church, and the proximity doesn't enable the workers that will come to do the work safety. In order to provide that, we'd like to place this new pole across the street. We'd move our wires over there. It would enable us to continually provide electricity the way we have been from that line, and it would also enable the workers to do the work they're going to do on the stained glass windows for the church.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak in favor?
Nicholas Bostonello, interim city engineer. The city engineer's office has approved this pole also so that they can do the work on the stained glass windows at St. Patrick's.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor? In favor, in favor, in favor, hearing none. close the hearing on behalf of the proponents and open it up for those who wish to speak in opposition. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? In opposition, opposition, opposition. Hearing none, close the hearing and open up to the city council. Chair would entertain a motion to refer to the wire inspector for report and recommendation by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Rourke. Discussion on the motion, Councilor Mercia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I am so pleased that this is coming forward because this is very important, especially to Father Crayon at St. Patrick's Church. They spent an awful lot of money renovating St. Patrick's Church, and the only thing they could not get to was to that stained glass window because it's leaking and it's causing flooding in there when we have rain. And this has been a long time coming, and it's but better late than never because we certainly need to help the church in that way. So I support this 100%. Do you have any idea when this is going to start? Because we don't want to wait another year or two.
I don't know how long it's taken. I do not know when they're going to schedule it.
It's been taking a long time already, so
I believe it, yeah.
I'm glad it's before us now because they have been asking me many times, where is this going? Where is this going? So I'm glad it's before us, but I just don't want it to stop here. We're looking forward to get the ball moving on this project, so my colleagues, I hope they support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion? All opposed? So voted. If there's no objection, I'd like to take item 5.4 out of order. Hearing none, we'll do that by general consent. Item 5.4 is a vote to accept the proposal of the S&R Corporation and Megan House Foundation and Owlstamp Visual Solutions at 234 and 268 Mount Vernon Street and 5 Varnum Street. So authorizing the city manager to accept the proposal of S&R Corporation, the Megan House Foundation Incorporated, and Owlstamp Company Incorporated in the amount of $301,000 to purchase properties located at 234 and 268 Mount Vernon Street and 5 Farnham Street in Lowell, and to execute all documents necessary for the transfer of the property. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Council Leary, seconded by Council Samaras. Discussion on the motion. Roll call.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Returning to the agenda, the regular place on the agenda, item 4.2 is a communication to accept the resignation of Christina Robaka from the Lowell Sustainability Council. Chair would entertain a motion to accept and place on file by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Rourke. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next is a communication from the city manager to request out-of-state travel for 2 members of the Lowell Police Department and 1 member of the Lowell Fire Department. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Discussion, roll call.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote to accept a donation in the amount of $7,500 from the Digital Credit Union to the Police Department. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading.
Fire department, fire department.
Fire Department. Authorizing we'll waive the full first reading, go to the second reading. Authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to accept a gift from Digital Credit, Federal Credit Union of $7,500 for use by the City of Lowell Fire Department. Motion approved by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Leary. Discussion on the motion, roll call.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote accepting the proposal of Habitat for Humanity in the amount of $29,200 at 163 and 173 Adams Street. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading, go to the second reading, authorizing the city manager to to accept the proposal of Habitat for Humanity in the amount of $29,200 to purchase properties located at 163 and 173 Adams Street in Lowell, and to execute all documents necessary for the transfer of the property. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion approved by Counsel Rourke, seconded by Counsel Elliott. Discussion, roll call.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote authorizing the city. Okay. All right, so we have item 5.2, accepting a donation of $7,500 from the Digital Federal Credit Union to the police department. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading, go to the second reading, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to accept the gift from the Digital Federal Credit Union in the amount of $7,500 for use by the city of Lowell Police Department in support of next year's Lowell Student Police Academy and other valuable community events. Do we have a motion to approve by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milonazo? Discussion, roll call.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote authorizing the city manager to execute a temporary access agreement at 179 Bridge Street. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading and go to the second reading, authorizing the city manager to execute a temporary access agreement between the city of Lowell and S&R Corporation relative to 179 Bridge Street in Lowell, Massachusetts. We have a motion to approve by Council Belanger, seconded by Council Leary. Discussion on the motion.
Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Wait, Council Belanger.
Mr. Mayor, through you, this is a pretty exciting project going on here. I think the Cox Bridge, otherwise known as the Bridge Street Bridge, is going to be lit up with LED lights. Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager, if you could elaborate a little bit, Mr. Manager?
Yes, this is, we had a private donor donate a significant amount of money to light up the Cox Bridge, and plus the city council voted to authorize money to put lights underneath the bridge so that it's even nicer looking. And what this access agreement is S&R Corporation, who is here, is actually going to be installing the lights. And so they need a staging area to put their trucks and their equipment. And so this is going to be the staging area to be able to accomplish the lighting of the Cox Bridge. And it is a very exciting proposal.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Mr. Manager. Now, this is an anonymous donor, so I'd like to send a thank you letter out, but fortunately, we don't know who to send it to, right? But
Yeah, the donor preferred to remain anonymous.
okay, well, thank you, whoever you are. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy. Yes. Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next, we have a vote to declare various city properties surplus for auction. If there's no objection, we'll waive the full first reading, go to the second reading. Declaring surplus properties located at 1012 Westford Street, 210 Stedman Street, Unit 3, 41 Ellis Avenue, 51 Payne Street, and 301 Lakeview Avenue in Lowell, Massachusetts, and authorizing the city manager to proceed with an auction process on October 12, 2017 for the disposition of said parcels, namely 1012 Westford Street, 210 Stedman Street, Unit 3, 41 Ellis Avenue, 51 Payne Street, and 301 Lakeview Avenue in Lowell. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Council Mercia, seconded by Council Leary. Discussion on the motion, Council Mercia.
Tonight has been relatively very exciting for me. First, we talked about LED lighting and make the city more brighter and less crime if the lights are lit. This is a good thing. Now then we're talking about getting these properties back on the tax roll. So it's been continuous of so many good things that are happening in this city right here tonight when you heard all the things that are going on. So I'm very excited. The Cox Bridge to be lit with an anonymous donor. This is just tremendous. So there's so much spirit in this city that you can feel it. So, and the Lord said, let there be light. So I'm so happy. So, and then we're going to auction off these properties. these are good things that are happening, so thank you for the good news.
Thank you, Council Leahy.
Thank you. Through the manager, just so people at home know, when we auction these properties off of their minimum bids, so we don't just let them go if there isn't a crowd and somebody bids $5, we don't let them go, right?
Right, we establish a minimum bid.
Establish minimum bids. Okay, thank you.
Council Elliott.
Just to follow up, that includes back taxes and any liens that have been placed on the property, or even in some cases, if there are demolition costs, or, I know there was a program where the city would fund the demolition because you'd have landlords that just walk away from it, and then we would recoup those costs, but,
Yes, Councilor, we'll be getting all of those costs out of the money that will come in from the sale, assuming that those are successful. And as the manager noted, on these properties, this is the first time that we're doing a live auction. And so on these properties, there is a minimum bid on all of them. In 2 cases, there's not a stated minimum bid. However, the city has reserved its rights to reject the bid. So the very thing that you're talking about in terms of the protection, the city is protected. And we're just looking at some different ways of doing it. Also, DPD has been involved in this process. And so some of these properties do have restrictions on them, and they would be sold accordingly.
can I just follow up, Mr. Mayor? And what is the reasoning why on 2 of those properties there's no minimum bid?
We have, I'm sorry. We, through an RFP process, we hired an auctioneer. This is the individual that we hired, does this throughout the state. And it was a strong recommendation from the auctioneer. In fact, he generally does not have a minimum bid for any of the properties. He advertises. He generally has a lot of competition at these and hasn't run into instances where that's a problem. Nevertheless, the city, being cautious on this, we opted to take a more conservative route, but we also opted to explore with 2 of the properties and give him the flexibility that he wanted to do that, knowing that under the law, we also have the protection to reject these bids, as the manager was saying.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
Next, under subcommittee reports, we have a report from the Finance Subcommittee for October 3, 2017. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you mentioned, just this evening from 5:30 to actually 6:40, we spilled over a little bit into the city council meeting. The finance subcommittee met. There were a number of items on the agenda. We only got through the first one, which is the proposed parking rates and fees for the city garage and on-street parking. We had many residents from the downtown. We got a letter from a resident in one of the neighborhoods speak to the concerns that they had. Certainly cost, the 69% increase was one of them. Other residents and businesses spoke in opposition to it and expressed their concern that if rates go up, they're going to leave the city. That's certainly not what we want. That's not the reason why we did that. But first, to the folks at home, the parking rates, that is separate from the operating fund. It's a parking enterprise fund, and specifically set up that way so the user fees, the rates, the revenue generated from the parking garages and on-street parking and citations and tickets goes specifically into that one fund to pay for the operation of the garage, the maintenance, the debt service, and that's why it's called an enterprise fund, so there is no bearing on taxpayers. And with that, we are operating at there's a surplus in the fund right now, but because of costs and increased costs throughout the years, at some point in time in the next 5 years, it'll begin running a deficit. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Baldwin. It's next year that this fund will, there's a surplus in it, but we don't want to continue to operate and create a structural deficit situation where it's operating a deficit and then there's no money left into it, which is one of the reasons why it was proposed. Question, sorry, Mr. Baldwin.
That's right, Counselor. The budgeted forecast is for an annual operating loss for the next several years, and we project that by 2021, if everything remains the same, that the fund balance will diminish entirely.
And I think the consensus from the residents is that we have not raised rates since 2003, and they remain consistent. This rate just is a burden, will be a large burden, a significant burden financially on them, and so that is the reason that, along with some other issues came up, they came out to oppose it. So the motion was from the city finance subcommittee to refer this back to the city manager. We've got some work to do to try to work out an agreement and concerns, and not implement this parking rate. Lots of things, good things are going on down in the city, but we don't want to wait to the last minute. But by the same token, the manager's looking forward to coming up with a better solution. I think residents did, understand that rates have to go up to sustain the garages as well as to plan for new ones. So motion was made by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Leary. It was voted unanimously to send this back to the manager for further evaluation and analysis. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. So we have a motion by Councilor Elliott based on a recommendation from the subcommittee to refer this matter back to the city manager for further report and recommendation, seconded by Councilor Leary. Discussion, Councilor Elliott.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I missed one issue, and I think it's significant. I should have mentioned in the report. On a couple of occasions, reference was made to the agreements that were put in place with UMass Lowell and Middlesex Community College. I think it's worthy to, as part of this analysis or further investigation, if you will, into the rates, if we could get that information, and is that something, we heard sweetheart of a deal mentioned, and I think those issues need to be explored a little bit further and reported back to the council and the public on exactly where we are and how maybe that's another source of revenue. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to include that as part of the report.
Thank you, Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was a good analysis by Councilor Elliott. But yes, it was a pretty well-attended subcommittee meeting by both business owners and residents, all which expressing frustration in the amount of increase. And it's understandable. This is what happens when there's been no increase in 15 years. This is what happens. We just, things should have been managed a little bit better. So we have to look forward. We can't point fingers. It's our problem. But what we can do is look more towards the violation end of it and on-street parking end of it as well to help ease that burden for the ratepayers. It is going to be a lot of money, so we took a step back and sent it to the manager's administration again to reevaluate, and let's focus on the other things, and let's look at untapped resources we have in the downtown. There are several areas that don't have meters, so let's see if we can include some more kiosks out there and increase revenue. And again, let's be more violation-oriented to help ease that burden on there, which is understandable. So that's the approach we're going to take, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. No, that was a well-attended meeting, and I think we got a lot of good information from that meeting. But I attended, I think, the last downtown meeting, and literally everybody there brought up the point that was brought up tonight, that a major concern was that we haven't had a rise in prices in a number of years. Then all of a sudden, to put the new price into play, they found it really unacceptable. In other words, what they would prefer is if we could do something over a period of steps, the 1%, 1.5%, almost like our tax increase, if we could do it on a regular basis. And I understand, what you have to do to run the garages and things like that, but to all of a sudden have their fees go up $30, $40, I mean, I can understand their angst about this. So I think we really have to think about an approach that we could use that could ameliorate some of their fears. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Leary.
Just quickly, not to beat a dead horse, but you're looking at, you haven't had an increase on, 11 years, 12 years. I think going forward, we're going to need to look at making these 1% or 2% increases every year on an annual basis. As Councilor Elliott had articulated, we're going to run a deficit. Excuse me. We know we need to do something on it, and I do appreciate what the subcommittee did with Councilor Milinazzo and Councilor Elliott referring it back to you for further analysis. Part of what we need to look at, too, is the $7.5 million infrastructure changes or repairs for equipment. What type of equipment are we using? What do we actually need? Is there another way of looking at that? Not to hold the line on spending, because you need to have investment, but what type of investments are we actually having? I think we're doing some good things in terms of the location for open parking. I think there were some really good suggestions from the folks that were there. I think the strongest sentiment, though, really is that as far as our downtown, we need to take a look at, we're trying to bring in customers. What are the impediments to bringing in those customers? One of them happens to be the cost of parking, but there's other issues there, too, that we need to be working on. I think it was a good subcommittee meeting, because I think you'll take a look at it, you'll come back with some additional recommendations. There's going to have to be an increase. There's a question of how you do it, though. And then there's also taking a look at, I think Lowell High, I think, was it $17 a month for parking? I mean, we're talking how many spaces are filled up with Lowell High students. Then you're looking at the Middlesex Community College students. If we start taking a look at different areas that we give certain types of I can't even talk, we give cuts to, that is a problem. So I think we need to take a look at more of a global approach. What are we doing with the parking? How do we get them in? Obviously, we need more parking spaces. We just talked about the Hamilton Innovation District. We haven't even spoken about parking that we don't have on the other side of the library, where we need parking for that side of Merrimack Street. I thought it was encouraging, though, getting feedback from people. I think having you take another look at it will be a benefit. Ultimately, we will have to have some increases, but let's take another look at what other towns, like, we're comparing ourselves to Cambridge and Worcester and Springfield. We may want to say, well, how much does Springfield give to different nonprofits or different customers? Do they do the same thing that we do? Also, someone mentioned Burlington, Vermont. I mean, that's an excellent way of looking at, are we encouraging people to use the parking garages? But I think when you take a look at it, Mr. Manager, we'll come back with a different proposal. It will have some increases on it, but it'll be more of a thoughtful approach in terms of how we handle it and how we handle it long term. Because we're going to have to do something, or we're going to be running a deficit, which we cannot do. Thank you.
Councilor Mercian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I look back many, many years ago, and God knows I can look back all them years ago, we had 4 garages that were practically vacant. We couldn't even beg people to come in and fill them up. We were thinking, are we going to tear these down? Nobody's using them. And now we're looking to add more and more garages. This is unbelievable. This means the city is growing, it's vibrant. But I was very impressed with all the people that came out here to the meeting to speak. Some had some very good suggestions, and it's true. Maybe we should have gone up a percentage each year instead of just hitting them all at once like this. I want to bring businesses here. I want to bring people here. I don't want to discourage them by overburdening them, and we should probably structure it so people pay their fair share, and some are getting a better break than others. But be that as it may, I'm also concerned about the comments that I heard from this attorney who must have did a thorough search of the garage and knew that there were 2 city parking vehicles that didn't move in quite some time, maybe a year or 2 or whatever. If that is the case, and I'm sure he's not lying, if they can't be fixed and we're not using them, they're taking up space that could be used to generate money. Let's auction them off. Let's do something. Let's put them somewhere else. But they shouldn't be in a garage. And I think maybe we should take a ride up all the levels and see if there may be more of this happening. Are there police cruisers there that are being stored there because they're being used for parts or whatever? If that's the case, and I'm not saying it is, that's what we got to do. We got to be looking to make sure that this isn't happening more than just 2 vehicles. So that's some food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, the motion is to refer the matter back to the city manager for further report and recommendation, and to accept the report of the subcommittee as a report of progress. All in favor of the motion? All opposed? So voted. Next, under petitions, we have 1 property claim. Chair would entertain a motion to refer to the law department for report and recommendation by Counsel Milonazo, seconded by Counsel Mercia. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, under miscellaneous, is a request for permission to install an overhanging sign at 191 Appleton Street. The motion would be to refer this to the Law Department for report and recommendation. We have a motion to that effect by Counsel Leary, seconded by Counsel Leahy. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next, under miscellaneous 2 is the Lowell License Commission request that the City Council review the proposed amendment of the pub crawl ordinance. Chair would entertain a motion to refer to the Law Department for report and recommendation by Counsel Leary, seconded by Counsel Elliott. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed. I'm sorry, Counsel Milonazo.
Thank you. Is John Dakota here? It says in the letter that, no, he's not. Okay. I guess my question is, what's their reasoning behind this? And I guess we can certainly wait for the solicitor, but I guess I can understand the logic in that if you're doing a pub crawl and there's a restaurant or a bar that's under suspension, you know, they may not know enough to skip past that, and there might be an issue. But at the same time, I don't know if we want to, you know, reward bad behavior either. But again, I'll wait for the city solicitor's opinion.
Mr. Manager?
Yeah, basically, right now, under the ordinance that we passed and we recommended, it's mandatory that if you have a violation, you can't host the pub crawl. What they want is to give the License Commission the discretion to grant the license even though they did have the violation. So I'll reserve my.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on the matter? If not, all in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. Next, under City Council motions. The first motion is by Councilor Mercia. Request that the city manager address the numerous concerns associated with the Roadrunner service provided to Lowell residents. Seconded by Council Leahy. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There seems to be a very troublesome concern associated with the Roadrunner service, and I'm not here to lay blame on the LRTA or the Roadrunner providers, but I am focusing on the operational restrictions that inconvenience seniors with doctor's appointments. Roadrunner service is an ADA transportation service available to people with disabilities. Many seniors are disabled to some degree, but they do not apply for the documentation to verify their disability. Therefore, they do not get preference when dealing with the Roadrunner service. They do not become eligible, and the Roadrunner service does not get paid by the government because these people aren't considered disabled, so the seniors are left in the lurch. Believe me when I tell you, I've got numerous calls from this. Then there are those seniors who schedule an appointment to the doctor's office 6 days ahead, which incidentally, you only need to give a 48-hour call notice. And the Roadrunner calls them a half an hour before their appointment and tells them that their ride is canceled. Now, if these seniors fail to notify the doctor to cancel an appointment and verify what just happened, they are made to pay a fee for not showing up for their appointment. Now, I'm asking you, how is all this fair to our seniors who rely on a company to provide a service? Not all seniors have the good fortune to have family members available to transport them to doctor's appointments or food shopping or even to attend bingo. My concern here, and please listen very carefully, that the town of Billerica, with a population of 40,000 people, they have 4 Roadrunner buses. We, Lowell, with a population of 110,000 people, we have only 1 bus and 1 driver servicing our seniors and the disabled. What is the town of Billerica doing right for their seniors that we're not doing for ours? Seniors who are not completely disabled but have a hard time getting to the center will not be serviced by a Roadrunner. For example, tomorrow is Wednesday, and that is the day set aside for bingo. They all got notified today that all bingo passenger pickups are canceled. Nice job for the city of Lowell. This is the only excitement that our seniors look forward to, and their ride is canceled. And I'm thinking this is very, very sad. In Lowell, we have 1 more bus, but the federal government does not provide us with the funds to pay for the driver for that bus. So here is the solution. I need the city to provide the funds for a driver for that extra bus. I know that they can say, well, let the seniors get out there on the sidewalk and flag down a LRTA bus or walk to the... It's not as easy as you think. If someone... There are many people that have handicaps, but they don't classify themselves as that. They don't get the paper credentials written by a doctor that designates them that. So the people that need a bus to go to the senior center or to bingo or whatever, they can take a Roadrunner bus. They're called dialer call. They're dialer call people. They get, if there's no availability and a disabled person comes in before them, rightfully so, these people never get on that bus. Not everybody has family members that can take you to an appointment or to the senior center. Not everybody can walk up to the corner, and even though they probably could be considered disabled, I'm thinking if we could provide just one bus driver, for the Roadrunner has a bus for us, but they can't supply us with a driver. We could then get those people that are using that for bingo to get to the senior center and let them stay on this particular bus if we could have a driver, and fill the need for those that are disabled, or seniors that are disabled. And we call it handicap too. If people are not seniors but they're disabled, they still have a right to get the Roadrunner. So we could free that up if we had another bus to take people to the senior center. Some people, that's their only means of communication with other people. They can no longer drive. I know a lady that's a friend of mine. She's legally blind. She can't drive at night or at certain times of the day when the weather is restricting her. And yet, if she wanted to go to the senior center, she probably couldn't on certain days. She would need to be able to be picked up to be brought there. It's a very, very difficult for some people. You don't know that unless you're in that position, but I know that because I see them and I meet them, so the rest of this is, if we could have one more driver, that will free up for more disabled and seniors to make their appointments on the Roadrunner bus, and give those who want to go to bingo or to the senior center a chance to go out on that other bus. Then each will have their choices met in the other bus that the driver will provide. And I know it probably would be $30,000, and I'm kind of like begging if you could do something to help us with a bus. Now, the senior has a bus that's specifically for senior trips. It's always utilized. These are the people that are probably healthier, that can go and afford to go on trips. But there's many, many poor people that are really struggling. They don't have anybody to, just because my family lives here, there's other people whose families live in other parts of the United States, and they're left here alone. So we got to think about that. This is a vibrant city, and we're forgetting the more vulnerable people that pay their dues, so to speak, and are in the ending of their life, and we're trying to make it better for them. And so I'm asking and appealing if you could look into that, Mr. Manager. Maybe we could do something to generate that money so that we could do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion? Counselor Leahy.
Thank you. If the maker of the motion doesn't mind, I've been working on this for a couple of weeks. So we do have a bus. We just need to get a steady driver. The town of Borica they have a couple of buses, they're going for a third bus. And we could go for a second bus too, but we need to provide the drivers. The LRTA through a federal program will give us the bus. We just need to get the drivers, as you probably already know. And it is a problem. We've been getting calls. If you're a dial-a ride customer, you can get canceled at any time if you're not have a paperwork that says you're disabled, because through the federal government, I guess, they have to pick up the disabled riders first, if you will, and they take priority. I guess over the last few years, that demand wasn't as high, So we were able to pick up more dialer drivers. Now it's switched, so anything we can do to provide drivers over there to get that bus out on the road 5 days a week, that would be a big help. And if there is demand for a second bus, we could apply for the second bus and get it, but we do need the drivers, so that's something we do need to work on. So I happened to go to a couple of meetings with Michelle Romalo, and, you know, she's doing a great job over there. She's trying her hardest to get this back on track and work with us to get the drivers. So anything we can do, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion?
If,
Councilor Mercer.
thank you. If I could say one more thing, if I was not clear on it. If the Roadrunner picks up a disabled or senior disabled person or a handicapped person, federal government will reimburse the LRTA for that person that got on the bus. So if you are a senior that needs to go to the senior center, they'll pick you up and take you, but they're not going to get reimbursed. So what do you think? They're going to try to get the disabled person that they could get reimbursed for first before they get the person that needs to go for an activity at the senior center. So I think I'm pleading for you to please find it in your heart to help the seniors. Thank you, Connor. Get with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the
Have a
motion?
heart.
All in favor? All opposed? So voted. The next motion is by Councilor Mercer. Request that the city manager of the proper department replace handicap parking sign at 198 South Street with a 10-minute handicap drop-off sign and remove the existing handicap sign to the next spot behind it. Seconded by Council Leary. Councilor Mercer.
Thank you very much. This motion more or less speaks for itself, but it's kind of confusing. I went to 198 South Street. They had a neighborhood cookout thing over there, and they were telling me that right in front of 198 South Street is a handicap parking spot. They would prefer that be moved one spot down and made a drop-off there, because people come with their groceries and they have and to make it a 10-minute handicap drop-off in that spot and put the handicap parking spot that's there right over there, because someone that's handicapped parks there all day, and it makes it tougher with people trying to bring in their groceries. Do you follow me on this? You understand what I'm saying, right? Okay, it's like a swap. All right, thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Councilor Mercer. Request that the city manager provide a status and update regarding the property located at 318 Andover Street. Seconded by Councilor Leary. Councilor Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Every now and then, we are aware of once vibrant properties that are in disrepair, such as the property some time ago at 80 Clark Road. And I brought this to the attention to the administration, but in the background. And if you went to 80 Clark Road now, you would see a magnificent structure. The property is vibrant, and it's bringing values up in that neighborhood. It's outstanding. The property at 887 Andover Street, which is being addressed with activity and transforming into a once beautiful luster home, providing a wonderful home for a family. They're doing a magnificent job. I can see life starting to take place where it was once vacant and the property was overgrown. There's life there. People are working inside trying to fix it up, and someone's going to live there and be very happy. So now I present 318 Andover Street, a home along the gateway into our city that was once a beautiful piece of property, but it's now falling into disrepair, and perhaps it is vacant. I would like the same attention paid to this particular property to revitalize this property. This property is in tax title, and once it's in tax title, a company paid off the lien, and it's going after the owner. But in the meantime, is there a way that we can address the problem there? It's really a nice-looking home, but something's happening to it, and we need to find a way to try to correct it and bring it back to its vitality. I know that there's companies that come, they buy off a tax lien, and then they go after the owner for the money. This is a situation here. all in all, I don't care what you're doing as long as the city's getting the money, but take care of the property in the meantime, or put it, sell it or whatever, and, you know, try to give it back to the public so that someone can live there and it would be nice. This is a gateway into the city, and to look at that, nah, not too good. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Councilor Mercia. Request that the city manager provide a timeline as to the steps involved in the resolution process to remove buses in an outhouse from Crawford, Avon, and Fourth Avenue area. Second by Councilor
Right.
Leary.
Thank you so much.
Mercia.
I know that the people were concerned around that area. I know that this administration has done everything that they could to address this situation. The buses are gone, that's fine, but that portable toilet is not gone. It is not gone, is what they told me as early as last night. It's not gone, and so it should be out of there, because people are coming along and they're using it as if it's open to the public, be that as it may. So I know that a lot was done already. I know that it's in the courts. I'm just wondering if you could keep us in tune and abreast as to what's happening with that, so that we are able to tell the residents that are concerned about it, so keep us updated as to what's going on, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Councilor Milonazo. Request that the city manager and the city solicitor review and prepare a report and recommendation regarding the proposed memorandum of understanding between the Boston Surface Railroad Company Incorporated and the cities of Lowell, Woonsocket, Rhode Island, Nashua, New Hampshire, and Worcester, Mass. Seconded by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was invited to a meeting last week by Vincent Bono, who's the president of the Boston Surface Railroad Company. It's a private company, and he did give me a copy of an MOU that he has been negotiating with Woonsocket, Nashua, and Worcester. I did give a copy, if it's okay, Mr. Manager, to the city solicitor, just to kind of begin the process. He indicated that it is a profit-making venture, going from the Manchester airport down, you know, through Worcester, through Lowell. Also talking about providing us with, he used a number of $350,000 to put some sort of crossover bridge and waiting area at the LRTA terminal. But again, early discussions. This is dated as November 1st of 2017, expires next year. Again, I just wanted to bring it to the attention of the city administration, city solicitor, to get the process under discussion. If you're wondering why I was invited to this particular meeting, he happens to know some Milanazos that live in Burlington. That was it. No relation. But again, I just thought it's something that we should take a look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Councilor Rourke. Request that the city manager locate a drop-off site in the city for the support of the Puerto Rico supply drive. Second by Councilor Samaras. Councilor Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quickly, Mr. Manager, a couple of nonprofits in the city, including the Boys and Girls Club, reached out and asked if there was something that the city could do. They actually had a drive that ended on Friday. They ran out of space and they didn't have the the bodies to continue it. So, as everybody knows, there's still half of Puerto Rico is without water or power, internet services, and so forth. So, whatever supplies that I think as a city we could do, I think it'd be very successful. And then to get those supplies where they need to go, I also think would be a good thing for the city and obviously for those affected. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. This is a good motion. I just wanted to also thank the administration. The Roberto Clemente League, this probably should have come on their announcements, but considering we're talking about the devastation in Puerto Rico, they're having a fundraiser at 490 Pawtucket Street, Lowell, Mass. That's the field that the city dedicated to the Little League, and that is this Sunday at 8 p.m. I just want to thank the administration and the Board of Parks. This was not on the agenda, and they issued a permit knowing the importance of it to allow them to raise some money and not have to wait another month for permits. So they were very, very grateful for that, and I think it just shows the cause is more important than, the bureaucracy. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Councilor Samaras. Request that the city manager have the Division Planning and Development create a study on how to restructure Middlesex Street between Central Street and the Lloyd Overpass. Seconded by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Perhaps restructure is not the correct word, but when you look at that part of Middlesex Street is the main thoroughfare in Lowell. There's no question about that. But when you look from the Washington Bank to the Lloyd Overpass, there are a number of issues that businesses are facing there. You have a large number of the panhandlers in that area, but what seems to be increasing in the city of Lowell are displaced people sleeping in doorways and that type of problem. This is a problem that's everywhere, but I think its time has come for us to try to develop some plans. You have the transitional living center that's there that offers a bed at nighttime, but puts everybody out on the street for the day, and that creates problems. You have soon, Middlesex Community College will have their fine arts building ready, which will have a theater, they'll be inviting people to come into the city to see productions there. And I think this is part of the city that we want to make sure that it doesn't become problematic. And the issue is there are many people in need, and we really have in this city a lot of fine nonprofits. And some do a better job than others, but maybe, Mr. Manager, we could get some of the leaders from the nonprofits to come together to have a meeting to look at these problems that we have in the city and see if we can come up with other models in how to lessen the problem. This is a problem we just can't eliminate, but I think this is a problem that, one, the city should show that it has a heart, and two, it should show the business people that we're in earnest trying to assure that when their customers in, they're not going to be besieged by people looking for money or other issues.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. It's a good motion. If the maker of the motion doesn't mind, I think we should take a look at Appleton Street too. We should spread out
Actually,
to that whole.
probably almost go citywide for the issue. of
Well,
some-
I understand what you're saying, but when we're looking right there in that area, I mean, the businesses on Appleton Street that have been there for forever, Durkin's, the Owl Diner, Riverside Glass, I mean.
Thank you.
We're gonna help everybody out, so, thank you.
Okay, so if there's no objection, we'll
No.
conclude that. Appleton Street as well. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Councilor Samaras. Have the city manager, request that the city manager have the Division Planning and Development develop a report regarding the availability of parking between UMass Lowell and the Smith-Baker Center. Second by Councilor Leahy. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, I know you're working on plans for new garages in the city of Lowell, all over the city. I mean, parking is a problem everywhere, and I think tonight, when we heard from our downtown residents, we found out, even more issues, okay? But I'm not, in this area here, I'm not looking for parking, we'll say, for the potential of the new dorms coming in, that. But if we want the Smith-Baker Center to be developed, we're gonna need some parking. If we see it to be in a museum, a show, a theater, or what have you. Also, Lowell Housing is looking for more parking for their development. And I've attended a lot of the neighborhood meetings in that area, and a common discussion amongst the people, especially in that area, is the lack of parking. And I think it's kind of a unique area because if you look towards the Hamilton Canal, you look at downtown, there are garages. But from the Smith-Baker Center up to the university, it's the only parking that's of major importance is the university. And the university requires that parking for themselves. So I think I'd like to see, if we can do something with the planning to be able to bring back to the neighborhood people what we're trying to, what we can possibly offer them. It's a difficult task, Mr. Manager. I know this is something very important to the city to get adequate parking at a reasonable price. But this is an area that we'll say hasn't been touched by us in a while. So I'd just like to see if we could have a study to just see what we can possibly do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Council Samaras. Request that the city manager have the Lowell Police Department research the cost of purchasing a new speed radar display, display signs for the city. Seconded by Council Rourke. Council Samaras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, I think I alluded to that in the last meeting. I think every city council has talked about needing a radar sign somewhere in the city. It's really, I think, a very cost-effective method of slowing traffic down, and it really, many of the neighborhood people are very pleased when we do something like that. But there is a newer sign that I've seen in other communities where if you exceed the speed limit, it looks like there's a cruiser waiting for you at the end of the street. All of a sudden, the lights come on, and I've watched people come to almost a stop in other communities. But it really does slow people down. I don't know what the expense of that is, but I think, not that we necessarily put it in everywhere, but say places like Andover Street where it's a very busy street, the children have to walk across. This might be the type of radar sign at the crosswalk that would be very helpful. But there are other parts of the city that have those type of problems every so often. So I just would like to see if we could look into that and see if there's a worth for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Council Leahy. Request that the city manager have the proper department review congested traffic at the intersection of Aiken Avenue and Lakeview Avenue and report on a possible solution. Seconded by Council Leary. Council Leahy.
Thank you. I don't know if that intersection is up for review or redesign or what, but if you get a couple of cars that park on the sidewalk at that CAA club, it just brings everything to a halt there because you're trying to take a left onto Aiken, other cars are taking the right. I mean, you'll sit through 3 or 4 lights and nobody moves. So if we could take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next motion is by Council Belanger. Request that the city manager provide an update regarding J.J. Boomer's site for development in Pawtucketville. Seconded by Councilor Elliott. Council Belanger.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I've been canvassing the Pawtucketville area, a lot of residents have brought this to my attention. As if I can provide any information, we know there's rumor that Tamoulis has purchased the J.J. Boomer's property. There's big piles of dirt in the back, so there's something going on back there, and it has piqued the enthusiasm of Pawtucketville residents for good reason. So if we can just get an update there so we can get some answers for them, and that would be great, Mr. Manager. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, and if there's no objection to the maker of the motion, if I could add, if we could look into the status of the Laura Lee School. I don't know if people are asking me if a CVS is going there or if there's going to be a swap with Old Ferry Road and the Elks. I don't know what's going on there. If you could just include that as well, thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Just briefly on on Council Belanger's motion, has any plans, any discussions, Mr. Manager, been taking place with that site? I mean, the rumors are swirling that, there's a market basket going in, 80,000-foot market basket going in. Any, I mean, we'll get the report, but anything you can add right now?
The representatives of Market Basket met with Development Services probably 2 to 3 months ago, and they showed a proposed plan, a preliminary plan. They've already acquired J.J. Boomer's that would remain as some type of retail endeavor, and then back nearer the Elks would be a Market Basket with a retail component on this side of it. Since then, they haven't come back with any definitive plans or any requests for building permits, but there is a proposal to build a Market Basket right there.
Which includes the Elks, or it doesn't include the Elks?
No, it doesn't include the Elks. I meant just, if you were
Setback there.
picturing...
The old drive-in, right.
Yeah, it would be back. Okay. And then there would be access not only off... there'd be access off Old Ferry Road.
Old Ferry
also.
Road,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. But it's all preliminary.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. That concludes the regular council agenda. The chair would entertain a motion to go into executive session regarding recent matters of litigation, the public discussion of which would have a detrimental effect on the city's position. Do we have a motion to do that by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milonazo?
Your Honor.
Before we take that vote, we should do announcements. Councilor Lee.
Thank you. Tomorrow morning, there's National Coffee Day, Coffee with a Cop at Top Donut on Aiken Street. So that starts at 8 a.m. And runs to about 10:30 a.m. Best coffee in town, best policeman in town. So try to make it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank and congratulate all the volunteers who took their precious time on Saturday to clean the canals. These remarkable people are the Lowell Canal water cleaners. Not only did they pull out the debris from the canal, but they also cut the brush along the banks of the canal as well to allow us to get a great view of the waterway. So they did a great job, and it wasn't a good day Saturday weather-wise, and they were out in the rain, and it was not a thankful job, but I thank them for the great job they did. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further announcements? I just would add that we will be adjourning from the executive session at the end, so we'll take a roll call on going into executive session.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy. Yes. Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.